Hey guys, welcome back. This is Zephyr Kambata, and today is the 15th of September 2025. I'm reporting to you guys regarding the Iris Ko and Gibson Hua trial in the latest tranche of proceedings, which starts today. I have about 5 pages of notes here, which I'm going to read off for you guys and pick out the key points just to give you the highlights. So bear with me if there's a little bit of scrolling. Thank you so much. Today we started off with the judge saying that he needed to discuss some applications that had come in, and that was basically Iris Co's counsel submitting an application to remove himself from the proceedings. Counsel said that Iris is consenting to this application, and I've advised her to carry on with the case either with another counsel or herself. The entire mood was very amicable and cooperative, and there was nothing of intensity there. So let me move on. The judge talked to Iris for a little bit, Ms. Iris, and he said he just wanted to make sure that she understood the implications of consenting to the application or saying no to the application, in his words. And he said, I just want to make sure you understand what is expected of you and what are the implications. The judge extended some very nice professional courtesies to Mr. Wee, her counsel, and said that he had derived great assistance from Mr. Wee in court so far for the entire period of the trial. And he said that I believe you have as well. The judge also added that he wanted to make sure that Iris had sufficient time to engage new counsel or prepare herself for self-representation. He said that although this has been discussed for a while, the final decision was only made on Friday, apparently. And so he wanted to give Miss Iris enough time, sufficient lead time to weigh all her options, in his words. He said, I think you'll appreciate that if you engage a new lawyer or yourself, you will have to jump into the trial right away, implying that there might be some intensity and a bit of a learning curve for Miss Iris since this is her first time representing herself. As such, he gave everybody a 45-minute break, and I'm heavily summarizing here, to continue a discussion for Mr. Wee and Miss Iris and see if they wanted to let Mr. Wee continue just for this week. That's my summary of quite a lot of discussion that they had in court. So the judge also stressed to Miss Iris the amount of work that had gone in on the background for Mr. Chua, who was representing himself. And he said that although sometimes he might have made it look easy to the onlooker, to the untrained onlooker, such as myself, for example, a lot of work has gone on behind the scenes. So he would like Miss Iris to take note of this and understand this. Also, he did say that courtroom dynamics, and this was a good learning point for me as somebody new to the courts, really depend on whether parties are able to work together. He was referring to both the prosecution and the defense. And he would say a lot of work has gone into this case. And he also used the phrase a good working environment. So he said, before you make a decision, I would like you and Mr. Wee on my account to see if Mr. Wee can stay with you this week on the record with you or this tranche of the proceedings. And he said, I will give you 45 minutes. And then we adjourned for a break from about 10:20, I believe it was, to about 11:15. Before the break, Iris stepped in to say that she would like to say something to the judge and the court on the issue. And she said that Mr. Wee doesn't know what she was about to say, so implying that it might be news to the judge as well. And the judge says, so please discuss with Mr. Wee and see if you can resolve any contractual differences for at least this week over the next 45 minutes, like I just said. And Iris asked if the witnesses are still going to be the same, because this would affect her decision. And the judge and the prosecution discussed who the next witnesses would be. The prosecution was saying another patient, but the judge said it might be easier on Ms. Ko's bandwidth to start with a statement recorder, which is one of the police personnel. For those of you who are new to this case and you're wondering what a statement recorder is, it's the person who took down the statements from the witnesses. So a recorder in that sense, a human being, not a device. Okay. And so it would be easier for her to start with a statement recorder rather than a patient witness. And there's some back and forth between Miss Iris, the judge, and the prosecution about what was said, about when the statement recorders would be called. There was some technicality because Iris thought it was going to be statement recorders immediately. But apparently, according to the prosecution, and this is my understanding of the law that they were talking about, which is very complicated for a layperson like me, it was a little bit of a technicality about there was a request or a notice to call the police officers, the statement recorders, but that's not necessarily a confirmation. So that's what the prosecution was trying to say. And so then we had a break till about 11:15. And after that, the judge says, Mr. Wee, are you still applying to discharge yourself? And Mr. Wee says, yes, my position remains the same. I'll leave it to Ms. Ko to express her position. And Ms. Ko says, after much consideration, I've decided to continue with the discharge. And there are many reasons for that, of which I wish to inform the court. And then she launches into a very emphatic and heartfelt, sincere message to the judge and the court. And she was speaking rather briskly, so I did not manage to take down those words. But with her permission, I will check if I'm allowed to share those words, because that's the exact word for word script that she read out in court, in public court. If I'm granted that permission, I will share that perhaps at the later part of this video, later today. And Miss Iris was crying in court after that. I can confirm that. And the judge says, Miss Ko, I understand that's a lot to take in for you for today. I'd like to give you some time to compose yourself. Please take your time. And the prosecution then mentioned that the events mentioned by Miss Ko, referring to her long speech, were not within my knowledge, and I will need some time to gather my thoughts and case and so on. The judge did reply to Miss Ko and say, summing up her long message, that Miss Ko, I want to give you my utmost assurance that this criminal trial that I'm presiding over is independent from anything happening in any other courts or anywhere else. So from that, you can get the gist of perhaps what she said, but I don't expect you to do guesswork. So I'm going to report on that later on in the day. And they went back and forth about laws and sort of the jurisdiction of different parties in the government, different state organs, and so on. All right, I will cover that later on as mentioned. Later on, then they continued discussions about Miss Iris continuing to represent herself. She had some requests. They were discussing a particular order in which she could go when examining the witnesses. And then she requested to go last so that she could learn and understand how Mr. Chua, for example, does it, because he's representing himself as well. She also asked for a friend who might be well versed in matters like note-taking, admin, and legal matters as well, in accompaniment to that, so that they could perhaps help her take notes and do some research and so on. And later on, the judge did clarify when they were responding to those requests that she might need to submit an official application. If the person is somebody who has legal expertise already, the judge will need to approve that. And other logistical requests like could she have a table and so on and so forth. They went through a procedure where they were each responding to it. And the judge did say that Miss Iris would need to make a formal application if she wanted that friend to help on a legal basis. And also Miss Iris asked if the prosecution would notify Mr. Chua and her when a particular witness is called, like what it would be the notice period and so on and so forth. As we saw in the last tranche of proceedings, if you followed my earlier videos, I believe there was quite a bit of notification going on. And so the judge responded to this because Miss Iris was concerned about how much time she would have to prepare and so on based on what the prosecution does next. The judge did respond saying that do note that this notice period was done previously in this trial because of certain occurrences and certain conditions, or maybe when things change. So basically when it's necessary, they would give a notice period, they would give the names, they would give the duration and so on. But by law, the prosecution is just required at certain times to let everybody else know who the witnesses are before the witness is questioned or something, but I'm not sure how long before. I believe that was the point he was trying to make as well, which is that they don't owe you sort of the information, but if things change or something in the trial changes, some new evidence is brought to light, or any witness that's not in the original list of witnesses by the prosecution. And so basically it's, if I could heavily summarize here, it's on a case-by-case basis. That's my simplest way to put it to the casual viewer on YouTube and on socials. Now we have a break till 3 p.m. because that's when the first witness, who I believe is the statement recorder, basically those were the two types of statements recorded by Mr. Cedric. I believe it was 2 to the police and 1 to Ministry of Health. So statement recorders from those will be invited down. This questioning starts at 3. That's all for this video. I will report back as soon as I can with the rest of the proceedings at the end of the day. Thank you and stay tuned for more.